Hello.
My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 297 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 24th in the evening. From Gadsden, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Karazhan, California, we got Bodikus.
Yo.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, we've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
And we are supported directly by you, listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. You can also support us by leaving an iTunes review. Totally free. Really helps other people find the show. Big thanks to our newest patron, Chris B. Chris, thank you so much. You're great. And thank you to everyone that's left a review. We have a bunch of bonus content planned in the near future. We're not committing to dates because time is a social construct. But we're going to read out reviews the next time that we do a bonus episode. So, working on those. All right, live and louder. Edelweiss, you wrote down something interesting here. Tell us about optimizing a suboptimal game.
So I pre-ordered D&D Dark Alliance because I had seen gameplay footage of it and it looked really, really great. I was excited to get a multiplayer game. It really reminds me of like the Return of the King and Two Towers action games that I played as a kid on PS2. Unfortunately, I feel like this. So I didn't get hit with the cyberpunk unfortunateness, but that's not a word. But yeah, it has some issues.
Would you call it unfinished?
It feels a little unfinished. The AI is rather poor. If you stand outside of what is like considered the designated arena or like aggro zone for an encounter, the enemies just won't interact with you. So if you're playing Catti Bree, the ranged character, you can just kind of shoot them until they go down. There's like a slight bit of balance in that the further you are away, you'll do reduced damage to some extent, but there's a lot of enemies you can just shoot at without fear of any retribution.
Seems unintended.
And yeah, and it also feels very made for, at the very least, some amount of multiplayer, really specifically, like having all four characters played at once. And I've been playing solo, and playing solo turns it almost into a Souls-like. It's a lot more challenging because normally when someone goes down, a teammate can revive them. When you go down, you just get sent back to the beginning. Enemies respawn. Any loot you obtained, you hold on to, but yeah, it's not great. And I discovered something that has made it way more enjoyable. And this is what I mean by trying to optimize a suboptimal game. Is I realized that so you can buy a bunch of moves, but there's limited controller inputs. And I ended up like, since you can't see the move list in the middle of a mission, you can only see it in the hub. I made a spreadsheet with all the moves, and I'm just treating it like a fighting game in terms of practicing and memorizing all the various moves and like combo chains, figuring out what works best. So I did a little bit of like practice mode to memorize the moves, and now the combat's a lot more enjoyable. So,
What a weird game.
It's very unusual, and I feel like I have this catch-22 of I want more people to have the game so I can like play with friends because that is the intended experience, and I think would be a lot more fun. Which, to be clear, I am having fun. I'm sort of making my own fun, like I do, but I have to work at it. And yeah, at the same time, I can't really recommend the game to people.
I don't know, such an enthusiastic review so far. I definitely want to go out and spend American dollars on this.
I feel like where I land emotionally is in line with the Fextra Life review of the game, which that they put it at the highest I saw of any of the reviews. They put it at a 7.2. The one exception is they said no noticeable or game-breaking bugs, which is incorrect. Probably put it more at a 6. But it does have some deep combat gameplay, more than it seems like at surface level. And I don't know, been getting into it, really just waiting on the new Hearthstone stuff.
Whatever's next for us, because it's putting together the show notes for this week was extremely difficult. Not because there was so much to cover, but because there's so little. There is one actual news item, and it is a bizarre out-of-context tweet from the main Play Hearthstone account, and that is the only news item we have. We got lucky because the Angry Chicken ended up, there was a delay in the episode, so we got to cover the one official piece of news from last week, which was that Celestalon tweeted they're going to eventually have Nozdormu Day stuff in-game. But, since that marquee headline was already covered by us last week, we're going to have to cover this other tweet. That's where Hearthstone's at right now. It's a... Go ahead.
I did listen back to... So I caught up on Angry Chicken from before, and then listened back our stuff on Bly's, and I did want to make an amendment. I feel like my position worked out among the three of us because I played kind of another angle, but I was a little more lenient than I intended to be on reflection. And I guess I just want like a clarification that if someone exhibited that behavior on my team, on Swagoi, they would be kicked from the team. So like, while I'm not sure I think Blythe should be kicked from Grandmasters, I think there should be some penalty. And like, I do kind of understand, but I also think it's like super unacceptable behavior.
Yep. It's, I appreciate you clarifying. I don't remember what you said last time. I don't remember what we said last time.
I kind of made comparisons about how we put athletes and e-athletes up on a pedestal and kind of forget that like they're, just in this case a kid, or you mentioned something about people just being good at the game, right? It doesn't mean that they're good people.
Yeah, Ludwig said that. Yeah, it's a complicated thing, but honestly, Grandmaster's over for the season, and I've stopped caring, so it is what it is. We're all just looking for things to talk about and things to do right now. I have been playing what I've been playing in Hearthstone. I've actually been playing a good bit of Wild, Classic, and a little bit of Duels. Haven't even touched BGs, but I should get more into BGs, I think. Games take too long and I feel completely lost. But Wild? So, I'm sure you all remember the Taint deck from last week. Kind of hard to forget. Oh, thank you, Baximus. You're great. That is super unnecessary and much appreciated. Thank you, Baximus. So the Taint deck proved to be popular around the Discord, and I tweeted about it, because I didn't want to, tweet about Priest, because it's... We'll touch on how it's all anyone's talking about. If you were here in this podcast episode for this week to hear Priest talk, you're in the wrong place. None of us care enough about it to go into it. We will briefly touch on it, but not much more. But I enjoyed that. But I kind of forgot that I was mostly playing Wild to grind out Demon Hunter wins, because I want to get the cool 1000 win portrait. So I just kind of switched to other Wild decks. And there are a lot of really fun Shaman decks out there. I did indeed clear a board of 6 minions with a Lurker below. That was very enjoyable. There's an aggro Shaman, an elemental overload aggro Shaman deck that tops it at 3, where your Cage Match Custodian gets a Lickum. And I've been playing a little bit of that.
Ooh, that's fun. There's
also a elemental Galakron Shaman. It's quite good. And then, Wild's kind of fun. And Classic, I kind of won our Classic Listener Series yesterday. Kind of won that event. So I think that is my second Listener Series title. So Dr. Bomb D, well played. But in honor of that, I had to go craft a Diamond Rag, which is cool. And then I took Control Warrior onto the ladder and then lost to a Shaman. But I played the Rag, and it was fun. It was enjoyable.
It's really sweet looking, right?
Yeah, it looks really, really good. I am surprised at how good it looks, but I've been surprised by every diamond card so far.
Sure.
They're really cool. And then in duels, there was this deck I saw that I had to play. So you can still kind of curate which passives you get. And so there's a deck that has 14 legendaries and athletic studies. And you try and go for Discs of Legend, which duplicates all of your legendaries when you play them. I didn't get that, but I got double Battlecry, and then your Battlecries cost one less. And I played a Grom, and it got damage from my opponent's Caltrops, and then I played a 2-mana Bloodsworn Mercenary that happened twice, and my opponent took 30. They died. It was pretty goofy. I enjoyed that.
That sounds quite enjoyable.
Yeah. So, duel's fun. Wild fun. Haven't played really much standard outside of THL right now. Just chilling, waiting. And we are definitely in the eye of the storm right now. Like, there's gotta be something soon, because I cannot remember a slower 2-week period in Hearthstone where we've had to try and plan out Decksplanations 2 weeks in advance, because what are we going to talk about? So, this week I think we finally got the last idea we have handy there. I hope there's something by next week, because otherwise, I don't know. If your favorite class was a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would it be? Is like our next tentative topic. And yeah, still been playing Slay the Spire, Legend of Runeterra a little bit, mostly labs. Hades, got back into Hades a little bit. Managed to fix an issue that I was having with my controller. Died a bunch last night, but it was 3 a.m, and I was a little drunk. I'm going to go back to it. Bodikus, how about you?
So I hit level 70. That was the big thing for my week.
Congrats. Yeah.
And I did a raid, and we did Gruul with the guild I'm in with my friend, and Hunters Are Broken, because
Burning Crusade?
Yeah, because I hit level 70, and then 2 days later I was 3rd highest damage on Gruul, and the 2 above me were also Hunters. So it was the 3 Hunters at the top of the DPS chart, and then the rest was everybody else. So glad I chose that class. In terms of Hearthstone, I kind of just playing to get rid of my quests for the most part. I have won 2 BGs recently, so I'm up to like 7,600 MMR. Not playing a ton of BGs, just like 1 or 2 a day usually. Finally got my first win with Alakir, which is a hero that supposedly rates pretty high for most people, and I think top 4 is fairly consistently, and I have just never been able to make him work. Like, just pretty much every time I just struggle and struggle and struggle to get him to work, until this time where I got blood gems plus the 5-star minion I can never remember, and a cave hydra.
The big pig? Or Agam?
No, Agam, yeah. And I just put a bunch of blood gems on Agam, which made my hydra big, and eventually I switched all those blood gems onto the hydra, and I was playing Alakir, so it had Wind Fury and Divine Shield, and it had 80 attack, and that's how I won. That's how I won.
Did a little bop, little cleave bop.
Yeah, it was little. It was more like a big bop.
Yeah,
2 big bops in a row usually, and
like a bop bop.
Yeah, there was another hero that I got first place with that I need to look it up real quick, because it wasn't one of like the standard heroes that you see a lot. And it was pretty fun. I'm just doing a quick scan of what it was, because I'll remember right away. And I did lose with Millhouse recently, though. I like playing Millhouse, but I don't know. Sometimes I struggle with him. Okay, I can't remember. But anyway, got 2 wins recently, so BGs have been going well.
Yeah, and it's from the little I've played in BGs, it still seems like it's somewhat interesting, but that would also be every mode would be better right now with a little bit of new stuff. It's
it was Ragnaros. That's right, it was Ragnaros. And that was the first time I've done a Death Rattle comp recently, because it was Baron Rivendare focused.
Oh, do you have Selfless Hero?
No, I was Beasts. I ended up in Beasts.
Ragnaros Beasts, interesting. I guess your Macaw gets that big.
Yeah, I had Golden Macaw, double Goldrin, and Baron.
Those are good minions.
And it was good.
Yeah.
I was so proud of myself for actually recognizing, like, oh, hey, person who's likely to win the lobby is going elementals or something with just enormous stats. I guess I'm just going to pick up these poisonous Baron and Selfless Hero. And, like, I managed to sneak it out.
Yep. It's
poisons and Divine Shields very solid against elementals. It can be pretty good against dragons. Selfless is super good against dragons if you also have if you can position your deal 1 damage to everything so that it doesn't
Cool.
Yeah, so that it needs to die after the Nadina, and then you get the Divine Shields in it. You can do pretty well.
Seems somewhat complicated, but every dog video that I watch, which is most of the ones he puts out, he ends every single game by like, all right, Selfless, Spore, or my ex now, and usually Rivendare, and just like, all right, we just do this now.
Yeah.
Only real way to consistently beat big stats if you're behind. So yeah, I guess that's Life and Ladder. Guess we'll jump into the news, see what we got here.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
I was looking for a tumbleweed soundbite, but I don't have one.
Are you still looking, or should I just continue?
No, you
with
can.
The news?
You can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, as Hat was saying earlier, very, very light news week. The one topic, or the main topic, I guess we have to talk about, is kind of an interesting tweet from the main Play Hearthstone Twitter channel site. It is a picture of Mount Rushmore, except they switched the faces with faces of the top 4 cards in Standard, which are Rinling's Rifle, Demon Companion, Adorable Infestation, and Warsong Wrangler. And I'm sure everybody else already knew what that card was, but I had to check. But in case you are like me and don't know the name of that card, but you probably know what the card is, it's the 4-mana Hunter pet, or 4-mana Hunter minion that gets a beast out of the deck and gives all copies of it +2/+1.
So
I didn't know it by name. I knew the card.
Yeah.
I
I like that Doge is asking in chat, what are the stats? Like, no, we didn't get stats. We got this tweet. We got the picture and the caption. And that is the end of the news story. Does not align with any stats in HS Replay. There are I guess Beast Synergy cards. Warsong Wrangler is a Beast Synergy card, but didn't list Thunder Rhino or Wolpertinger. They're all Hunter cards. Got nothing else. Is
They're
it?
good cards,
Yeah.
but this is super weird. Like, someone had to take the time to make this.
It's a cool picture.
Yeah.
For
cool
a
picture.
tweet.
I just,
Like, it's not even going on a blog post to go with it.
It just a tweet.
It's also not like the top 4 cards from 4 different decks. It's just like, hey, by the way, Hunter's really good, though all 4 of these cards are Hunter cards, and one of them can be played in Demon Hunter, technically.
Durable Infestation can be played in Druid.
Yeah. That one's actually more likely, right?
Yeah,
The Demon
that's
Hunter,
totally true.
the Demon Hunter decks are either Death Rattle or Combo right now.
I hate to say it, but I miss aggro Demon Hunter.
I don't. Not even a little bit. I'm happy if that deck never becomes a thing again.
I very much enjoyed Aggro Demon Hunter when it was not like super overpowered, but I enjoyed Ash's Aggro DH, especially near the end. Like Ash's 5, the version right before they completely destroyed Warglaves and we didn't have a 5-drop. I like that deck. And I did like the version that was in Darkmoon Fair, both pre and post nerf. But I enjoyed it, and it's one of the decks that I really liked playing. But
also, like, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with this tweet, right? It's kind of a cool tweet. It's just the context. It feels like it's a cool tweet with zero context, right? We have an idea what the tweet's about and everything, but it's, I don't know what, it almost has no purpose, right? It feels like it's a cool tweet with almost no purpose.
We could get super conspiratorial about it and be like, oh, everyone's complaining about Priest. So they're saying, hey, look, these are the top 4 cards. Guess what? They're all Hunter cards.
And that deck loses to Priest, so no, that's probably not it. Yeah. None of us has any idea what they're thinking. Like, there's nothing wrong. It's just weird. It's just a weird thing that they haven't done before, and we don't know why these are the best cards or how are they being evaluated. Or also, like, are you announcing a patch anytime soon? Can you please tell us, because we are bored, and help. Please send help.
I was hoping beyond hope that, okay, post Masters Tour Dalaran, they would look at how often Priest was banned and everything people were saying about Priest, and like this would be the Priest nerfs patch, and maybe some other things to go with, so that something else doesn't take over. And nope, just
a tweet of 4 Hunter cards chiseled into a rock face. And
I mean, they have done not a tweet necessarily like this one, but didn't they do a tweet? Maybe even last set that was talking about top 4 decks to show diversity in, right?
They've done stuff like that before. They've done off-meta decks. That was where Burst Druid came from, if you remember, where they posted off-meta deck lists. They've tried things in the Twitter account. I don't mind them tweeting this. It's just like in this barren wasteland of news, where it's one of the quietest periods I remember them having in a long, long time, where we got Wailing Caverns, and then we've had like leaks, but no official news, no roadmaps, no nothing. We haven't heard anything about Mercenaries, so at this point I'm almost certain it's either delayed or coming out next week. Those are the options, and I feel like if it's coming out next week, we would have heard something about it because of how big the mode is being described. But it's just in I don't know. We're in the desert, and we're dying of thirst. And then a plane flies over and, like, drops a bunch of gummy bears or something. It doesn't help us. It wasn't what we asked for.
Don't drop gummy bears.
We're not
I
upset.
want to eat them.
We're not upset. They're okay. Gummy bears are cool. But, like,
but they're not good on the ground. They're good in my hand.
Assume they
right
drop them in
before they
bags.
go into my mouth.
They're prepackaged gummy bears.
Oh, okay. Are they chocolate covered?
I'm not going to go into the weeds in this metaphor. We're already laboring the analogy. Point is, like, it's so at odds with what people are talking about or asking for, and it's out of nowhere, and it had no context before or since. And this is the most important thing we have to talk about. We are currently talking about a single tweet for, 6.5 minutes now? It doesn't deserve this much mental energy. It really doesn't. Anyways, where Hearthstone Twitter has been spending a lot of mental energy this week is on complaining about Priest. I don't think any of us really I don't think we care all that much, but I do care about my good buddy, Matt at Arms. And he made an exceptional tweet. A meme that has got a lot of attention, where Hearthstone content this week be like, and if you have seen the Radioactive Man episode of The Simpsons, Bart, as a young man, became Fallout Boy, which the band, by the way, was named after that character, to the superhero Radioactive Man. And, his job is to say the catchphrase, "Watch out, Radioactive Man," and then he's in his class at school, Springfield Elementary. And everyone says, "Say the line, Bart." And he's just like, "Watch out, Radioactive Man," and hangs his head, and everybody cheers. Well, Matt did that, except the middle line is delete priest. And everybody cheers. Because that's all that's been going on this week, is that people are tweeting and writing and talking about... I'm holding up air quotes. I want you to hear them. The priest situation. Did you hear the air quotes? I think they were pretty audible. And I don't think that we're here to be in the business of telling people how to feel and how not to feel. But we are in the business of processing the community's feelings and our own feelings. And my feeling is that there are very, very few metas where we are 3 months in and we are all really excited and highly engaged and playing a lot of games. And usually something is the thing that we enjoy the least at that time as a community, and it happens to be Priest right now. Is it a huge outlier? I don't think so. Do control decks usually last this long into metas? 4 months into metas? No, not usually. When they do, people are upset the same way they do when aggro is way too good. See, for example, the end of Dark Moon Fair and Dark Moon Races. A lot of people complain about Nitro Boost Poison. Those games didn't take that long. Not a lot of creative buy. You just died to Self-Sharpening Sword, to Penflinger, and Nitro Boost Poison. Now, a lot of card generation. A lot of life gain. Games take a while. Completely different, but it's the end of the meta. People are bored. Things are stale. This is the thing that we are talking about.
And
So
also
please.
people traditionally just don't like Priest.
Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be something that people like less than other things. Some people enjoy playing Priest, and that should be okay. Like, should be okay to enjoy Priest, and it should be okay to not enjoy Priest, but like, I don't know.
If anyone doesn't enjoy the experience, so be it. If you don't want to play right now, totally understand. I'm not playing a ton right now. None of us are playing a ton right now. And is the Priest gameplay experience perfect? No, I don't think it is. Just like I don't think any gameplay experience is truly perfect, and there is no meta where everything is great and amazing all the time forever. Is it a huge outlier as opposed to historical decks that have been problems? I don't think so. Could be wrong, but I don't think so. Would rather play against this than Dr. Boom, Mad Genius on turn 7. Can tell you that.
It's interesting that we now have two classes that go in and out of people being like very upset by, and they're opposite play patterns.
Is one of them
You
Demon
have
Hunter?
priest on one end and Demon Hunter on the other end.
Well, Demon Hunter's
they
the new
frustrate people-
kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Priest people have always hated losing to Priest.
And it was
Right,
bad
but
for
I mean,
so
we've
long.
had Demon Hunter around for less, but I feel like they're the two classes that get similar amounts of animosity. Like, there are people that just they can't handle seeing Demon Hunter. They hate it so much. I don't know if it's just like traumatization from when it first came out, or if they really just don't like getting hit in the face with the hero power, or what. But
I'm going to challenge that a little bit. People hate Priest and Skull of Gul'dan. When that card rotates, I think things will change a lot, because DH, ask any person what they hate the most about DH, and I bet the answer is Skull of Gul'dan.
really, 'cause
My answer is 9.
Yeah, that.
I would think the answer is just all their cards do too much damage. And obviously that goes in and out of whether it's powerful enough, but it, I think, is frustrating in a certain way to see just these massive amounts of attack coming at you, like the one that makes you immune and gives them +4 attack, so it's usually 5 with the hero power. You add a weapon on top of that. It's just regularly what you were dying to is just these consistent hits. Soul Demon Hunter was like a control-ish deck, except you still died from getting hit in the face by their hero portrait. And I think for some people that's just a big turnoff.
Yep, well, I mean, I've been playing a lot of odd DH and Wild, and there are a lot of cards that used to be in Standard recently that are kind of insane. Consume Magic is a crazy card. 1 mana Silence draw a card is, like, ridiculous. I've mana burned a good number of people, Bodica's favorite. Twin Slice is a thing. Like, it's just an eviscerate that you get to put into 2 pieces and never have to work that hard to combo, and people just die from 14 or whatever. And we're not even talking about when you go way back. When we go way back, when you would Skull into Ultrus, and then the Ultrus and the Twin Slices would be 0, and then all of their stuff would get Flame Struck, and it would go face. It's like Old Blade Flurry. that's not even happening anymore, but I mean, I remember it. And you think about, there are a few experiences that if you were not playing Hearthstone from like April to June, you're just never going to have that experience. You'll never know what it's like. And the initial Demon Hunter experience was totally like that. Like there was just a very, very brief period where that happened, and it's just gone. A lot of the cards don't even work the same way anymore. Like Metamorphosis. Remember how we would just lose the game to meta hero power on turn 6, and like next turn we're going to take 5, nothing I can do. And now the card basically doesn't exist. It's still in standard right now. Right this very minute.
I'm honestly surprised 1 damage difference was enough to do that. It's kind of crazy.
Well, removing all the other damage was enough. You could put it back right now, it would probably be fine.
Yeah, I think so.
They don't have to, but it would probably be fine. I don't know. It'd be a 7-mana Pyroblast, and everybody's getting Alex for 9 mana deal 8 anyways. There's just no Demon Hunter deck that really takes advantage of it. But yeah, it's a much worse removal tool. It's 10 damage versus 8 is a big deal. But there was a period there where we were playing Vulpera Scoundrel to find a second meta and kill people from 20. And now the card is just gone forever, basically, even though it is still in standard right now. Very strange. So anyway,
So yeah, I think our main point is don't get caught up in the drama.
Yeah.
Like, Priest is probably, I mean, there's not a whole lot that they can do to change how Priest functions. It's gonna kind of always function like this. If you don't like losing to it, I mean, you're probably not going. You're probably still not gonna like losing to it in its next couple iterations. It's, it's unfortunate. But
the generation will tone down, right? It's Sethic and Renew are in the same set, or in Ashes. Those are going to go away.
I don't know that it's the generation necessarily. I think it's the play style of Priest, the way that generally they have Priest win games is just not enjoyable to some people. And the fact of the matter is, when you have a game where one person wins the game, one person loses the game, generally people are most of the time, one person's going to be upset. And, sometimes you're more upset than other times. And sometimes that reason is you just don't like playing against the pattern that you're playing against. But also there's a good portion of people that enjoy that play style, have a good time playing it, win or lose. And I don't think that, people being significantly upset about that should necessarily cancel out the enjoyment other people have of playing it. I think there's just a lot of different ways to enjoy this game. There was a question we kind of covered last week, right? Where I think we might even still cover it in the bonus episode, but somebody asked in our Discord, what deck is the most enjoyable
the most varied
from
game to game, right? That
was
Tom
varied
Locke.
Game to game. Yeah. And I think I was thinking about this on the way home. My answer to that is Hearthstone is a game that's meant to be played with multiple classes. So when you lock yourself into one class, I think it's just less enjoyable. So like the best varied experience is to play a bunch of different decks. And we preach on the show a whole bunch that, if you want to hit Legend, you need to stick with one deck, you need to learn it in and out. And I think I changed my answer to that a little bit, where I think that is the case. If you want to hit Legend, the best way to do that is to play one deck over and over again until you master it. But I think the best way to get good at Hearthstone, not necessarily to hit Legend, to just get good at Hearthstone, is to find a way to enjoy Hearthstone. If that's playing one deck, then it's playing one deck. But the best way that you're going to get better at Hearthstone is playing a lot, and the way to play a lot is to enjoy the time that you're spending in the game. And so if that means playing a bunch of different decks, you'll lose on average more, but you'll get more experience over time and eventually just be a better Hearthstone player.
In some sense, the way to get the most varied experience is to do things like Discover or Generation, which people have other complaints about, right?
Some people. Nobody tweets Generation Great, love things right now. If people are having a good time, that is the expectation. I'm gonna use another labored real world example. The way that I train my staff at the movie theater. When you're in retail, some establishments you need to go to, some establishments you want to go to. Who has ever gone to CVS for fun? If you're going to CVS, if you're going to a pharmacy, you need something. It's probably not food, because then you would go to the grocery store, so it's less fun. It's possible that somebody is sick, or you need to run some kind of errand to keep you from getting sick. And so the likelihood that they are going to find a way to make your day better at CVS is pretty low, but also their need to engage with you is a lot lower, because you have to be there, because otherwise why would you be at CVS? Whereas at a movie theater, it is purely a luxury. Nobody's like, oh man, I got to pick up the kids from home, I got to hit CVS, got to go to the grocery store, swing by the movies, then I got to go all the way home. No. If you're going, it's because you want to go, and it's a leisure activity that you're choosing to do. So our job is, they come in at a high likelihood of being happy. Just keep them there. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about here, Boddick, is that if Hearthstone is something that you need to do, it's never going to be enjoyable. And if you feel like you need to keep playing the same deck, it's never going to be enjoyable. But if you find a way to capture the positive desire you have to play a game, which is hopefully the reason why you're playing a game, is because you want to, because it's fun, then it is likely to help you build your skill, because you want to spend more time there. And I love the variety approach. The pick one deck and stick with it was also kind of an artifact of older systems. Way back in the day. Back when we were young. Though people might not know, this is the third ladder system Hearthstone has had. The original, you reset all the way back to the bottom based on where you finished, and like if you hit Legend, you reset back to rank 16 and climbed all the way up. There were no ranked floors. So I guess like third and a half system, because they added the ranked floors. And you had to play hundreds of games. And there were no prizes along the way. You just had to play hundreds of games and get there and have like a real iron will. And you were just incentivized to play the same deck over and over and over again for 300 plus games. I think my first 10 times hitting Legend were over 300. And now Legend is something that if you were in a high MMR bracket, Legend isn't even the goal anymore. It's just something you do on the way to playing. It just happens under 100 games at 11x. And 10x, you can still get there in 100 to 150 games, and there are a lot of ranked floors, and you get prizes, and it's just a lot more pleasant for the user. You have opportunities if you want to switch it up for variety, and you can also work on moving that multiplier up 1 star at a time, month to month. And if you want to make that grind over multiple months, you can do that too. So, Bot, I really loved what you said there about finding the way to make the game fun, because the new ladder system, the biggest accomplishment that it has is that it encourages players to play their way on their time for fun, and the results will come if you're playing good games. As opposed to in the old system where you had to really grind it out and commit, and it was significant, substantial, focused effort, and discipline was so much more important.
As better as the ladder is now, or as improved as the ladder is now, I do have fond memories of the rat races from those times.
Sure, but also they were super unhealthy, and like Muzzy got there after 25 straight hours of playing on stream, and like that can't be something that we want to encourage our players to do.
Oh, I said it's good that we're past that. That was not a good system, but it was enjoyable content.
Yes. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's also not to say that there still isn't definitely merit to playing one deck and learning it in and out, but I'm saying if Hearthstone is going to be a game, like for us, we've played for over multiple years, I think you're better off finding a way to enjoy it than finding a way to win.
And the secret is they're the same.
Yeah.
That's the secret. Unless
And
you enjoy
even-
playing Celestial Alignment Druid, in which case...
At a certain point, I've finally felt like I can play other games and feel okay about that because the reward system is so improved that I don't think I'm shooting myself in the foot by taking some time off while the game is pretty slow for me to go play something like either Darkest Dungeon or D&D Dark Alliance. So I finally feel like I can enjoy other games, and I'll come back to Hearthstone, be able to dive right in when it's more enjoyable again.
Well, we need to level set too, I
That can be
think.
good too.
As content creators, our space is kind of warped. Because I say I'm taking time off from Hearthstone right now. I had all my quests cleared this morning. Like, by an hour after I got the daily, I had no quests remaining for the week. It's Thursday. That's our taking time off. So we also need to level set here. Like, it's when we're winding down, it's from, I mean, I don't know, Edelweiss during Skolo, I think you didn't stop playing for like 20 hours.
Okay. Yes, that was a very particular
The
point in
example
time. I
fits
don't
my agenda, so
usually
I'm
do
going to
that.
use it.
But yes, you are correct. I missed some sleep during that period.
Yeah. I think the example I'm going to use here, actually, if I recall, is that Luna tweeted that she wanted to... Let me see if I can find this tweet. So Luna had tweeted, what about core set changing every 2 weeks? You put a card in, you take a card out or whatever. And just every couple of weeks, you just changed a little bit. And I replied, and I think Kibler chimed in as well. I replied, this is way too much churn. And for all but the most invested, it would be so hard to keep up with. Because there have been times when they've changed too much. I think Galakron's Awakening in particular. There were nerfs, there were new cards every week. It was a lot to keep up with. And Kibler responded with, yeah, as a full-time player of the game, there is no way they can make it so that this game stays fresh for me. That is a good design decision. I talk about Hearthstone in 3 shows a week. There is no way for them to make enough stuff to keep it fresh for me and also still retain any kind of player base.
And all of this stuff is very relative. I was doing a coaching earlier this week, and I believe it was Fade to Black who said that they came into the game around Rostakon's Rumble. And for me, that was a period where Hearthstone lost a whole bunch of people. And so it's kind of weird to have this thing where I know so many people who quit the game during Rostakon's Rumble because it felt so stale and dead at the time. But you do have some people who started playing around then. So it would be fresh going in because they hadn't been playing with Gen and Baku for 2/3 of the year already.
Yeah. It's, and something else that has come up. So here, I found the tweets. And I said that that there's a real cost to change, and also that as of right now, the most difficult thing I think for us to recommend to especially newer players, there's never a good time to craft or dust a card anymore. Never a good time. And luckily, the system is a lot more rewarding so that you can get a lot of stuff. But people have been asking about cards to make throughout all of Barrens. And it's like, well, some like Deck of Lunacy when it costs too many, yeah, go ahead and make that. That's a rental. But everything else, not really sure. Should I make Kargal? And they ended up refunding that. But in the first week or so, it was kind of dodgy. And then after that, should I make Liadrin? Well, they're going to nerf Paladin again, but we don't know if Paladin will stay good or not stay good or whatever's going on. It's very difficult to find the right time to craft and dust cards right now. But, Kibler's quote here, I know I'm going to get a bit bored sometimes because I literally play as my job. Keeping me constantly entertained means others are lost. There's going to be lulls. Usually it's month 4. Here we are. Very excited for the next stuff.
Yep, and that's pretty much it for the news this week. I guess we can talk a little bit about tournaments.
We talked about a tweet and then an unofficial tweet. And we made it 45 minutes in. I'm proud of us. Doing a good job. All right, let's go.
It's the grand tournament.
Masters Tour Dalaran. It was 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Eastern Time locally here, and I was visiting my parents last weekend, so I watched basically none of it. But Priest was usually banned, so not a lot of Priest mirrors on camera. Warrior did very well. Druid did well. The few Shaman players did very, very well, but there are only 319 games of Shaman played, but highest win rate in the tournament. Paladin had a 32% win rate. I'm sorry, Paladin. That's just, yeah, no. So the top 4 was 3 players from the China region and Rekvam from EU. Shuimu won over Omega Zero. They were actually using a Chinese character's name before this, and so we didn't know them in the West, but they had previously done very well at other Masters Tours and were the leading CN Gold Series points holder in the past season. Omega Zero, we know, lost in the finals, and then I think it's pronounced Liao or Lee, Leaoh, and Rekvam were in the top 4. Now we have our GMs. Lambie Series and APAC bounced out and back in. Okasinske? I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. I pronounced it incorrectly in the Angry Chicken. I pronounced it incorrectly here. And yeah. Trahi-san. Did I say it right?
Okasinske. I think it's right.
Okay.
It just, like, you need to not hesitate. Gotta go through it once.
Okasinske. All right. In EU, Bunny Hopper bounced out and back in. Floki, Gabby, Gab Jam, and Jayu. In the US, the Grinder class graduated up into GM. Ego Waffle, McBanterface, Kayla's Luna, and Dmitry Kazov. Congratulations. We know many of these folks here in the US region. Now, it should be noted, the Americas region, qualifying for it was a much lower point total than any of the other regions for sure. Not to say that these folks aren't deserving, but that there's a big gap in tournament results between the Americas regions and the others. China's actually pretty far ahead right now, but EU, of course, super duper dense. And APAC, the qualifiers tend to be a little softer, but the GM competition's pretty tough. But on Americas, if you had 8 points, you were locked in, which is lower than any of the other regions. But these are good folks. Big fan. And yeah, no qualifiers because of the Master Tour. No Grandmasters because of the Master Tour. Bitch didn't get report number 200 came out for the ladder. They covered the meta. There's not a lot of major developments right now. However, I do want to cover, there is an interesting factoid about Priest that is worth discussing. There is a high concession rate that we haven't seen with other decks before. Small but noticeable percentage of games where the opponent simply refuses to play the matchup concedes on turn 1. These are often winnable games per the stats the opponent gives up for free. Their effect is not trivial. We estimate that early concessions alone boost Priest's win rate by 1% at top legend, excluding the mirror, which is pretty enormous. We've never seen a deck oppress the opponent's willingness to play the game in this fashion, and by the way, this has little to do with Dalaran preparation, as this phenomenon continued after prep for the tournament was over. 1%'s a lot in terms of win rate. And at top legend, for that to be that significant, yeah, it's a lot of concessions. I haven't seen this before either.
I think this is positive because people are looking after their mental health and making sure that they're having a positive time playing Hearthstone. If you're gonna, mauled and get super upset losing to Priest, then yeah, you go ahead and you concede. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But don't do that if your aim is to get better at the game, because you should learn how to beat that deck. Unless you just plan to ban it all the time in every single lineup, which is also probably wrong because it probably hurts your win percentage in the lineups where you're not supposed to ban Priest. But, I'm all for people valuing their mental health.
Yes. And, I mean, I'll be honest, when I play against Priest, if we get to the N'Zoth turn and they have a second Light Shower Elemental and they're at like 25 and they have a bunch of stuff on board, I'm just not going to get there. I'll just go. Like, that's fine. If I'm playing Rogue in Standard, which I often am, or if I'm playing Shaman and I have a bunch of damage, like, sure, I'll keep playing. If I'm on Face Hunter and they have 2 Light Shower Elementals by turn 9, like, I'm all set. I'll see you later. Let's go do something. Just go play another game. Because if I am frustrated at staying in that game until they win, I don't have to stay. I can go. But
yeah, I think it's worth it to play out at least the first 9-10 turns. Depends what deck you're playing. But certainly, if you see San Marino come down, yeah, all right, peace. Like,
Well, it depends what you have left. Like, if I see Samuro Apo and I'm Doomhammer Shaman, I'm not conceding because that's not enough to slow me down.
Sure.
But if I'm playing Face Hunter, yeah, okay. Yeah, sure. I'll go. I'm done here.
I wonder what percentage of these concessions were just Rush Warrior.
I would guess the majority of concessions are the mirror because at High Legend, Control Priest is a 20% play rate. It's by far the most popular.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Also,
like Rush Warrior,
if it's like 1 a.m. and you should have gone to bed half an hour ago and you queue up a priest game into another priest, then I'm okay. I conceded that game. I'm not gonna lie. I conceded
Yeah.
turn 1 to the priest mirror because I shouldn't have queued up that game in the first place.
Yeah. I'm sure that this statistic, among others, I'm sure they're looking at balance changes and thinking about Priest, and Apotheosis is the card that stands out the most to me as something that they could change. I don't think this meta is hugely in need of adjustment. I think it is more in need of a next meta, of a different meta. But they have options to nudge some stuff if there's a patch in the near future, which we're expecting one. Like, they usually have one right after the Masters Tour. They usually have one a month. I don't think that we've gotten a major... Like, they have to release 20.6 at some point. Don't know when it's going to be. Maybe they change some cards. Maybe they buff more stuff. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But that's it for the tournaments. So it's time for a Decksplanations segment. It's totally not filler and waiting for the announcement whenever it may be. It's time for Got It or Goofed It.
All right, so this is the game for points that don't matter, where we review cards that we made predictions on when we saw cards revealed, and kind of see what we got right, what we got wrong, etc. This time we'll be going over mostly Barrens itself, a little bit of the mini set. Obviously, fewer cards in the mini set. But yeah, Bot, why don't you kick us off with the one freshest in our memory, Stealer of Souls?
Yeah, so I remember bringing this up, that Stealer of Souls, I was worried about it in Wild, worried about it, being too good, and I understand that it wasn't necessarily banned in Wild because it was too good, but because the play experience was bad, but also like that I believe that was part of my spiel about it, is just that it seemed like it was not going to be a good thing for Wild to have this be part of it. So yeah, that was my main was that Stealer Souls was going to be a problem in Wild, and it got banned pretty quickly, so I was pretty happy calling that.
Yeah, I think it's fair to call that a got. And so you have mostly mini set cards here. We're going to talk about Barrens as well overall. But I think the mini set was pretty confounding. It was kind of hard to really get a good read on it, especially even right when it came out. In Standard, it felt like it had a pretty low impact, and then the cards started creeping in. The archetypes aren't dramatically different, but the cards definitely changed how the format functioned. But Stealer of Souls didn't really see a lot of Standard play, and yet you brought it up specifically of like, I am afraid of this card, not in Standard, but because Wild's going to do something gross with this because it's Warlock and paying life. Here we are.
I guess the other Standard card that wasn't in the MIDI set I could talk about would be Efficient Octobot, just because, it has bot in the name, so it's awesome. I really wanted to play it, and it turns out to be really good. So, pretty stoked on that card as well. That would be another one I would probably put in my got column.
I don't know how I underestimated a 2-mana Thaurissan tick. But here we are.
I mean, it definitely can be difficult to trigger, right? Like there are some matchups where it can be pretty rough. especially against Rush Warrior when they play the Discover Rush minion on turn 1, and you just know that they always get the stupid 4/4 that trades into it, and if you don't have a way to frenzy your Octobot, then you're sad.
Yeah, well, I would love if that was my concern with the card when it was originally revealed. I didn't think that there would be enough cards in hand for the discount to be worth it. I was wrong. That was incorrect. And also just discounting a field contact and
Yes,
anything else is fine. It's good. Really good.
Discounted field contacts are most likely to just like murder me on turn 3, 4. You know, they get the discount and I'm just not prepared to deal with that massive board. Or they get Divine Shield on the field contact. I'm looking at 3 mana and no ways of doing 2 instances of damage to the contact. It's just like, well, alright, good game.
Well, and also it's usually like Field Contact, Guardian, Og Merchant, Prize Plunderer, Shadow Step, Prize Plunderer, do stuff, kill your stuff, whatever. Prize Plunderer is so insane. I had that listed, or no, you had that listed as a goof, but I think we mentioned this last week. If that card doesn't exist, Rogue doesn't exist. That card makes Rogue a thing, and it is so incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how we didn't see that card as 1 mana Vilespine Slayer. It's basically just a 1 mana Vilespine Slayer.
Yeah, it's really bonkers. I still have to make that in gold. I'm going to write that down. No, I'm out of dust because I spent it on Diamond Rag. What has my folly wrought? All right, well, I was wrong about a lot of things. I looked over what I got right in Forge in the Barrens. There wasn't very much. And it was usually the cards that everybody kind of got right. So, my gots, pretty straightforward. Kolkar Pack Runner. Hey, Gibberling with Rush is good. Who would have guessed? Surprise. Cannon Master Smith. This seems not good enough for Secret Paladin. Well, that was correct. However, I am going to read a quote directly from the card review document because this deserves to be seen and shared, and I cannot hide my shame. So, where was this? The Northwatch Commando, I gave it a key support, and I said, the most important card that Secret Paladin will need to exist, I think it will exist and be bad, by the way. Well, you do miss every shot you don't take, but I took this one and missed anyway. Secret Paladin ended up being pretty good. I also rated Sword of the Fallen a 3 out of 5, so we're not going to talk about that one. Yeah, it was. I was wrong. I was incorrect. I also
was it 3 for the amount of durability it had when it was super broken?
Boy, I'd love to be able to say that it was. I also gave conditioning a bad, an F, whatever the lowest score available. I don't know if we were all as community high on hand buff, but it was better than a F by a lot. I think it's actually a build around card. And my note just says nope. That's all it says.
Well, and obviously we've seen the Rush Warrior, but it kind of feels like most things you're going to try with Warrior right now are going to involve conditioning. It just energizes well with so much stuff. You know, my weird taunt build had Morshan Elite, and that's a great thing with conditioning.
There aren't too many decks that are unhappy to have their minions be suddenly huge. We would play Keleseth, and this has no restriction, and also you get the stats right away. So, yeah, just pretty good. Yeah, I didn't have a lot of cards that I got exactly right here as well. The only other one that I have marked down here that I'm sure I got is Helbram, the rogue legendary that gives you a poison in the way out. I was like, this is too slow and dirtily. Turned out to be correct.
Hey, you didn't even play that card in Poison Rogue, did you?
It was bad.
I didn't even realize this was a card. And Poison Rogue, it makes 100% sense to play this card, and I don't even think it was in most lists. Mostly because it didn't need it, because you just play if you had to get that weapon, and then you play 3 poisons and your opponent dies. But
Also, a 4-mana minion is the worst. You can't prep that. It doesn't cost 0. Doesn't draw you cards, really. Like, it draws you poisons, I guess, but we have plenty of those, and the problem is that we have too many cards in hand, and we're not going to play a 4-mana minion. Yeah, it just didn't line up at all with what Poison Rogue ended up being about.
So I'm in a similar position where I have, way more goofs than gots. The few things I can think of, I struggle to remember what I thought was going to be good or not, but I do recall feeling pretty high on watch posts, particularly like the tax one and the one that makes minions. Obviously, those ended up being too good, at least in a way that felt so meta warping, and they have since been changed. I also feel like I got Courtress in kind of an interesting way, which is that I didn't think it was going to be so good as to actually make its way into decks. But I thought this is going to be completely insane off of studies, and it always is, because it's guaranteed outcast, and wow, is that just so often what you're looking for as OTK Demon Hunter off of your studies. It's just really great being able to clear a couple of minions and then have a 3/4 afterwards. That blows a lot of people out. But kind of going along the lines of that, I completely whiffed on Death Rattle Demon Hunter.
okay, but how did you whiff? Because Death Rattle Demon Hunter was barely a thing before Paladin got nerfed into the ground.
And
Okay,
before
it
they
was
buffed
like
Razor
kind
Boar.
of a thing. It was more of a thing than I expected then, and I didn't necessarily think that it was going to be a thing even after the mini set, and it definitely has been. Like it has become a part of the meta. It for sure has ups and downs, but it at least feels like a real deck.
Since they
and
printed
then-
a 3/2 Paladin Shredder, they printed Swipe with legs, they buffed Razor Boar, and they buffed N'Zoth. How did you miss this?
Well, she said she didn't call it even after she saw the mini set, right?
Yeah.
Is that
yeah.
essentially what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I just thought it still wouldn't quite be enough. I don't know.
I think that we
I think that
can-
one's hard.
yeah.
I think all of these are pretty. This Guardian and Goofed it feels harder than ones before, just because there's just been a lot of changes since then. Even though it kind of feels like we're in a lull now, probably feels like that because almost every week or two, just a complete shift in it with buffs and nerfs and all this stuff, and so these past 2 weeks have just felt like there hasn't been a lot of action. And you were talking about watch posts, and yeah, I guess watch posts were meta warping and too good, but also I think we felt like the nerf was more for the play experience than the power level. Obviously the power level was too high, so you played them, but their win rate wasn't even that high, right? Their win rate was trending downwards over time after people got used to playing against them.
By getting used to playing with them, you mean when people played a ton of Spell Mage, which had no minions, so 3 posts got worse. The meta was pretty badly warped, where there were 3 options: Watch posts, Lunacy onto Paladin, and Lunacy didn't care about either post all that much. You had Combustion to kill the Far Watch post, and Evolving Missiles for everything, and you didn't play any minions from Warshan. Post Rogue was very good, and then Paladin was broken, completely broken. So I don't know.
They were definitely too good, but I think that the reason for the nerf also involved the play experience in addition to them just having too many stats.
There's a question there that we'll never know the answer to, of if Lunacy is not broken and Paladin is not broken, how good would the post be and how enjoyable would the post be? We will never know. I'm curious about how they would be now. Well, intellectually curious. Do I want to play against 2 post on 2 with 4 health? Absolutely not. Not now, not ever again. No, I do not want to go back to Wild where they would call to arms out 2 of those. I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Oh god.
It was disgusting. Really not okay. Tax Paladin. Did you not know about that, Botticus?
No, I remember. It also... Oh, I hate that 1/4. I hate that 1/4 so much.
Which one for?
Your battle cries cost 2 more.
Oh, yeah. Nerebar Warlord. Yeah.
Oh, man, I hate that card so much because all of my stupid goofy decks just lose to that card every time because everything I ever want to do in Wild is play battle cry minions.
Yeah.
It affects way more than you think, too. Like, even if you're not strictly trying to play Battlecry minions, there's a lot of Battlecries just in decks, so...
In Wild,
I
if
mean,
you want your minions to be relevant, they have to do something right away, whether they live or not. And Battlecry's the way to do that.
I mean, I play Nonsense Rogue, which has lackeys in it. And let me tell you, 3 mana lackeys is too much. You can't pay 3 mana for a lackey. The lackeys were really good at 1 mana. Not really good at 3 mana. Pretty bad.
Zephrys at 4, a lot more balance. Also, played some
Reno
Wild
at
today.
8, you're never getting there. Reno at 8, never ever getting there.
Played some Wild today, by the way. Zephyr's still stupid. He missed lethal again. Its opponent was playing Hadronox Druid, and they had a board of 6 taunts. We had an 8 attack Kingsbane. Our opponent was at 11. It wasn't exactly lethal. But Mass Dispel into Oil would have won the game, and instead it gave us Ancient of War.
Yikes.
Yeah, we lost. Didn't work.
Hey, that card's better now. They unnerfed it.
No,
right?
Ancient of War.
Draws
The
2...
Uproot.
Oh,
Ancient.
the 5/10.
The blue one.
The 5/10. Never mind.
Yeah, no.
I feel like Zephrys and Reno Priest is often just like Wild Growth at this point. It's kind of what you keep it for.
Shadow Word Ruin can be okay. Like, you can get a Shadow Word Ruin from now and again. Yeah, it's I don't know what it's for, but it wasn't for Mass Dispel, I can tell you that.
In terms of my other goofs, I mean, maybe this was just more hoping than anything else. I really thought Mordrish could do something. It's not there. It's not happening. I'm not sure if it ever will be.
You were very excited about Wildfire, too. You were very excited about Wildfire.
Well, I mean, Wildfire goes with Mordrish.
Of course.
That one I was less confident on. But Havish Stormpike feels like it should be good, but that's just not the way that Hunter functions right now. You don't want to recruit a Volpertinger out of your deck. The effect is powerful, but we just don't have enough beasts. So hopefully that will see some play maybe once we get to 6-set meta. That feels like when we would have enough beasts that it could work.
He's on my wait and see list. I'm waiting and seeing.
Yeah, I guess we'll see about that one. But yeah, you both have Archdruid and Aralex on your groups. It's interesting.
Yeah, I don't think this card was going to be good. I don't know.
Really?
I just thought that the range of spells you could get, I felt like Ysera is good because you get those 5, right? And those 5 gel really well together. But if you get just 2 random ones, even if it's at a heavy discount, I felt like it's going to be inconsistent enough that you're not going to want it. And it turns out that I think that's just wrong. I think that all the spells are just so undercosted for what you get from them that even when you hit a low roll, which I think is probably the 4 mana 7/6 is probably usually the worst. Sometimes
it's like on curve.
The 2 minions are pretty bad.
But the
unless
spells
you're
are so
playing
insane.
It on 3.
Like,
but yeah, like if you get a 3 mana deal 5 to everything, it almost doesn't matter what deck you're playing. It's just always going to be super good because you either get to clear a board that you probably shouldn't have been able to, or you get to kill all of their stuff and develop behind it, and like you get to fall behind a little bit and then develop and swing the board. It's yeah, I think it's just kind of a good card. It definitely fits into specific decks more so than others, but I think it's just on average going to be very good, so you're going to want it in your deck most of the time.
I think what tipped it for me was realizing that Nightmare is way better than I thought it was because Samuro's in so many decks, among other things. Yep. That Dream and Awaken seemed like always insane early, but Nightmare being consistently good wasn't something that I was planning on, and it's been consistently good. It's in Vicious Syndicate has it in Shaman now, Like, you just put it in the Shaman deck because the card's just kind of good. Base Ink's original hybrid list that I tried out, she had Narrowlex in there, and I played it, and the cards were good quite often. And also sometimes, yeah, a Laughing Sister is okay. You can go like Laughing Sister Custodian on 4, and then Doomhammer on 5. I do think that Emerald Drake is the weakest one because vanilla minions suck. In Modern Hearthstone, vanilla minions that don't do anything, they don't have taunt, they're just stats. It just doesn't really do much right now with how the game is. So a 4-mana minion, you can't really cheat the mana at all. You just kind of play it like it's fine. And it's not bad. And if that's the worst case scenario the most often, then I think it shows just how powerful this card can be. And that's just not even assuming you're recurring it. And then sometimes the 3/3 body is relevant later too. I don't know. It's fine. Solid card. I wrote it off in a lot of decks, and it has a much wider application than I expected to. And I also think that we will look back in this answer in about 4 months when we have another full set and mini set, and we will never even think about playing Narrowlex.
Well, we'll see about that one. I don't know. It's still pretty powerful, yeah, but maybe... I guess maybe we'll power creep past it.
Maybe.
What's the 7/6 then? There's a 5-mana 7/6 that always used to... It made minions you play cost 3
Ventrico
more.
Mercenary.
Oh man, why do I have so many memories of like evolving into that and getting screwed over?
Or Jandising
like...
into it?
It's just like... I don't know why. It was like that 7/6 kind of just reminded me of that card for some reason. And it's just a hugely upgraded. It costs 1 less and doesn't have the downside of it. I don't know why I have so many of that Ventricos. I think you played it in Arena.
Yes.
Maybe that's why I remember.
That's good.
Yeah,
And
it would
also,
they would have to trade into it, and if they didn't, then you're just slamming for 7, and it doesn't matter that you have the downside.
And there's been a rather extended period of Hearthstone's history where the idea of generating random 5-drops is an okay thing to do, culminating in Jandis Barov, where they're like, oh wait, maybe we should stop doing this. And it really started with like Firelands Portal, where sometimes you would just dome someone for 5 and get a Doomguard or a Leroy or a Ventrico, and then people would just take a bunch of damage. Yeah. I don't think that we generate random 5-drops quite as much anymore.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just all over the place with tangents this week.
No, it's
We're
okay.
now
It's a good week
generating
for
a
that.
bunch of 3-drops with Serpent Shrine Portal.
Yes. Well, like one at a time, but some of those are really good. Shoutouts to Rokara. Big fan of generating extra Rokaras. By the way, I didn't write this down. She's obviously one of my goofs. I think there's going to be a point where we're really tired of how snowbally Rokara is, because when you stick a Rokara, the game just kind of ends. Just kind of right then and there. I had a game I was playing my last Hero Series match against your Mumket last week, and we got to the point where I had Warrior against Hunter. Turn 1 Gnarg, turn 2 Bumper Car, I think. Turn 3 Playmaker, weren't able to clear it, they were on Face Hunter. Turn 4 Rokara copy. All 4 of my minions survived. Game was over. Game was instantly over. All my minions got +2/+2 when they attacked.
Playmaker living is
Sure.
is often game losing on its own.
But if I played like I don't know, if I played a Crab Rider there or whatever, or if I played even a Tent Trasher would be good. It would be difficult to beat. With Rokara, all of my minions got +2/+2, and I killed all their stuff. It's so snowbally in such a really major way. It's such a crazy amount of stats that's so hard to come back from. I think there's going to be a point where, when that card's in standard for 2 full years, we're going to be like, all right, I'm all set here. I don't think it needs to be nerfed. But in terms of the play experience of just how it feels to be behind the 8-ball against that card, if it ever sticks and you can't deal with it, different than a lot of cards that we have in standard right now. Usually you can come back from swing turns, but it's just so early in the game.
I have definitely had times where I just saw their board, saw they played Rokara, didn't have an answer. Like, all right, moving on to the next one.
Yeah. Yep. So, I also really missed on the watch post, and then I gave our buddy Guff Rune Totem, who I still have faith in, I said that he was worth building around. Maybe in the future, Guff. Not right now. Not even Lightning Bloom is enough to make this card worth it. Unfortunately.
I put Guff in my wait and see. I'm waiting. I don't know. It's cheap, must kill minions with a lot of health. It just feels like it could be a must kill minion, and if it gets to that point, I think that it's going to be worth including in lists. I don't know. So there's something about Token Druid that is just not the way it used to be. And I know you've been playing it a bit, but I think it's just missing something.
Savagery.
I kind of feel like what's missing is treants going away. Like the kind of tokeny druid that we're doing right now, I feel like that stuff needs to rotate so that we're less full spell and we get back to some kind of aggro druid that plays a lot more minions and snowballs that way. Remember when we were playing an aggro druid where you had like 4 pirates to pull out patches, and then you also had fireflies, and you just wanted to mark up the lotus on your board? I wonder if we kind of move in that direction for aggro druid.
Oh,
Guff
you mean the
could
deck that
maybe
turn
be
1
good in
innervated out
that.
Flappy Bird? You mean that deck?
That deck, yeah.
I'm all set. Thanks. I'm all good.
I
Can
mean,
leave that one.
we don't have to be doing that again. But I'm saying that style, maybe has a compromise, an in-between of minions and spells rather than just fungal fortunes and gibberling.
Yeah,
Such that you'd be interested in Guff.
The builds as of right now are very spell heavy because of the payoff cards from Ashes of Fungal Fortunes and Glowfly. And the good nature spells are the cheap ones, and that means you play them before you get the Guff in play. Guff is kind of a weird questing adventure where you need another minion to start on your board for it to matter, and then it kind of gets charged. But that, you're asking a lot of the turn. It's a card for a different style of Druid deck that doesn't exist right now, and Taunt Druid really didn't work. Really did not work yet. So there might be a point where Razormane Battle Guard into Greybough gets us there, but we're super not there yet.
Yeah, I tried Taunt Druid for like a few games, and it's just not.
It's fun. It's not a deck, but it's fun. I don't know. There are a lot of cards that...
It's really hard to be that board-based right now.
Well, but that board-based without Rush. And without a lot of stats. And, yeah, it's difficult to be board-based and not in a way that's good against Soul Mirror. Like, you kind of have to be good against Soul Mirror. So, no, we all have some wait-and-sees as well, and this is definitely the environment I can think of where we know for sure other archetypes based around the cards we've been talking about will exist. You have Guff down in your wait-and-see Bodicus, along with Mutinous, which I think is actually pretty good right now.
Yeah, so that's... I kind of put this in here as more of a discussion topic than I think it's for sure wait-and-see, because I know it's seeing play now, and I'm wondering if you both think that it's good. I think it deserves a spot in the decks that it's in, but I don't know how good the card is. It seems pretty hit or miss to me. Obviously when you're it has a can be powerful effect, but there's a lot of games I feel like it's just in my hand and I never get to play it, and maybe it's not supposed to be played in those games because you just don't have time or something to play the 7-mana card. But I put wait and see as will it stand the test of time? Is it going to continue? Do both of you think it's going to continue to be in those same types of decks? Do you think it's worthy of a spot inclusion, or do you think that it's good enough that maybe we'll start to see it in more decks? I was going to ask that question to you.
I think it is a tech card that right now can get away with being in more decks because of the limited card pool, and because it can often just be high tempo. If you hit something that's at least a 5/5, it's a 7-mana 12/12. That's quite a good rate. And usually what you're trying to do is something like nail an Inquisitor or N'Zoth, both of which put its stats just through the roof. Oh wait, I can't do math. I was thinking 7 plus 5. If you hit a 5/5, it's a 7-mana 9/9, which is like, okay. But yeah, very, very often I find myself hitting things, if you time it correctly, where it's going to be much larger. Obviously, against Rush Warrior post-conditioning, they have just a bunch of big minions regardless of what they are. You can miss, and I think you do want to time it correctly. Like maybe not when your opponent has a bunch of 1/1 riders in their hand. That seems not a great time to play Mutinous. But it feels like a tech card with upside rather than a tech card with downside, which is kind of what Dirty Rat was a lot of the time. I don't know.
The downside is running it in your deck and drawing it when you don't need it and you're getting smorked down, but nobody is smorking right now except for Face Hunter.
Yep.
The format does not have enough aggression to punish
Shaman
this
is
card.
kind of smorking.
Are they really? So Elemental Shaman,
I just
you're
played
curving.
a game yesterday in a coaching session where our turns were Alex our face, Flash Heal our face. Next turn, Apotheosis our Alex that lived and hit, and then we died after the next turn.
Okay, but this is like turn 10. Was it against
From
a
a
Doomhammer?
shaman.
Was it against a Doomhammer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
that's not.
They
That's
just
not
played like
smorking,
one
though.
buff spell on. They just played one buff spell on the Doomhammer. We healed out of range. They played 2 buff spells on their Doomhammer. We healed out of range, and then they burned us to the face twice, and we died. And we just healed for like 24 over 2 turns, and it wasn't enough.
But this is not like 1-drop into double, 1-drop into 3-drop, and you're looking at your Mutinous in your hand, and you don't have time to play it. You got to turn 10. It just didn't matter, and Mutinous wasn't good there because they don't play minions. They play a weapon and a bunch of buff spells. It's not the kind of smork where it's Stilt Stepper into a 1-drop hit you, or Self-Sharpening Sword and Nitro Boost Poison, or a Zoo deck, or whatever, right? Mutinous would be bad against Face Hunter because it costs 7, and they kill you before turn 7. But the downside is really only against Face Hunter right now because even the aggro decks right now, they don't start pressuring you until turn 4, turn 5, whatever, unless you're talking Face Hunter or Kindling into Arid Stormer. That's really it.
I mean, we also couldn't have played Mutinous against that shaman because we were just dying.
Yeah, but it wouldn't
to
have hit
the
anything
Doomhammer.
anyways because they don't play minions. Like, you might have hit a Diligent Note Taker or something?
They were hybrid. They played a bunch of elementals in the early game, and then all of a sudden the Doomhammer came out, and we died over 3 turns.
Yeah.
It's very much good against controlling decks where you can kind of figure out where you're going to hit, and mid-rangey decks and combo decks, and very bad against aggro. But I suspect we will see less and less of it depending on, like, as the meta shifts to more aggro, if that happens.
If
Or
this
just as
card-
I'm wondering if you think it's going to shift that way because of the meta, or if you think it's going to shift that way because we're going to get a bunch of extra cards, and it's in cards 25 to 30 of the deck that could end up getting cut.
I mean, it also depends how popular combo decks are, right? Because that's the main thing where you're like, okay, well, this is my out, right? Especially if you're not priest, you don't have Elucia, then okay, Mutinous is the only way I can maybe eat Il'gynoth.
If we are later in the standard year, and this card is highly played across multiple decks, the format will get balance changes. Because this card being a permanent part of standard in a major way across multiple decks would be an indicator that aggression needs help, or control needs to be tuned down. This should be a choice to opt into as opposed to one to opt out of, but as of right now, there's just not enough pressure, so it sees a lot of play. I think it's an interesting question, where it will be. And both of my wait-and-see cards are kind of early minion deck questions. No Fin can stop us. I'm hoping that Murloc Shaman gets the juice at some point this year, and Tavish, like we talked about. And Edelweiss, you're talking about you want Draw Priest so bad. You want it so bad.
Yeah, I want them to be drawing cards, not generating cards. And I think I probably have to wait until
April.
previous year rotates.
Yeah.
Once that happens, I think these cards are going to be pretty solid. We'll be reevaluating what it means to be a good priest card. It's just a little too bad, I guess, that in my opinion, that we're doing all this generation stuff instead of, I think it could be interesting to turbo Cthulhu with these and the Shadows card. The spell that also
Thrive.
discovers a spell from your deck. Yeah, Thrive in the Shadows. Like, you can turbo at Cthulhu pretty quickly by discovering the pieces and then insight or something. But that's just Priest is intentionally trying not to draw cards.
They said Shadow Priest is coming this year. I'm very excited to see what it looks like. Even though these are both Holy Priest cards. Maybe you can do a little Holy, a little Shadow, a little mix and match. A little column A, column B. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's still targeted draw, even if you don't get the discount from the Dungeoneer.
Yeah. Well, we do have a few cards that I found interesting from the Dark Moon Fair. Got it or goofed it. Bodicus in particular, your wait and see section for Dark Moon Fair. Hammer of the Naru, Rinling's Rifle, and Moonfang. All of these. Hammer of the Naru saw a lot of standard. No, Moonfang's good now.
Iffy.
We're playing it in Hunter now.
Okay.
It's weird. Standard's a weird time.
I mean, Rinling's Rifle, #1 on Mount Rushmore. That's pretty good. I said that card was going to be good.
You did? There's the evidence
also,
right here.
Yeah, and Hammer of the Naru. Yeah, I'm glad that Hammer of the Naru. Like, I would have been actually baffled if Hammer of the Naru wasn't crazy good at some point. Even though obviously they buffed Fire Elemental, it just was like it was a beastly Fire Elemental. Is essentially what the card was.
Yeah. Well, and the thing that helped that card the most was, I think, Lightforge Zealot rotating, so we didn't have such a weapon density that Pure Paladin stopped happening as much. And so Hammer the Naru ended up being really powerful. And it's just the reach mattered a lot as well from the weapon swinging 3 times. It's a really strong card. Still good. I wonder if we'll see more of it when Paladin gets more stuff. Yeah. And my wait and sees were a little bit less illustrious. Gahoon the Blood God and Claw Machine. Now, okay. When you discover a Claw Machine off of an athletic studies, you're pretty happy, right? Like, it's
Most of the time, yeah.
Terrible. Gahoon the Blood God has...
I have occasionally put it on index on purpose.
Yeah.
It's kind of a filler right now.
It's alright. Gahoon the Blood God has not seen a lot of standard play. It's not really gotten there. I'm gonna say, yeah. Also, I'm also including this because on my GOT list, I have Tenwu here, which is on Edel's Goofed list. And Edel, your Goofed list is very interesting from Darkman Fair. Tenwu was bad at the time. Since rotation and Barrens, it's kind of a good card now. And Edelweiss, your Goofed list here.
Alex Straza. Since Alex Straza.
Yeah. And Kazakus. Edelweiss, what do you have on your Goofed list here?
So I had ETC because, if I recall correctly, I was saying I thought it was just not gonna be. I didn't think the combo was gonna be good enough, and the combo is definitely good enough. And it turns out the card is just good enough. Like, even without the full combo, it's just extra damage in Rush Warrior.
Even without Broom.
Yeah.
We're not even playing
Yep.
Broom. We just play it as a 2-mana 1/4 that sometimes is good enough.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of extra damage.
And I'm looking at the end of this list of cards you goofed here. What's this last card here? Deck of Lunacy? Is that what it says?
Yeah, Deck of Lunacy. I at one point was like, oh, I feel like you just put this in your deck and it like makes it better sometimes, gives you outs when you wouldn't expect. Little did I know that it would come back in a big way, even though it was not so great at the time.
Just goes to show.
If only you just moved these down to the wait and see column, man,
Right,
this would have
right.
been so good. Except for Ringmaster's Baton. I think we both got fooled on Ringmaster's Baton a little bit.
Yeah.
It's on my goof list. It's, I have Menagerie Warrior down, and Watley is good now. But yeah, it wouldn't have been as good
since
back
Alex. A lot of things changed when they added.
Well, and since the format
the
slowed
new
down.
Leroy Jenkins.
You couldn't Ringmaster Watley on 5 when you were getting Stilt Steppered for $1 billion. Like, remember that Dark Moon Fair was a very aggressive meta. That we had 2 different kinds of super busted Demon Hunt at the beginning, and then they printed Nitro Boost Poison. So it was, and Penflanger still went face. it was very easy to just die if you were playing a 5-mana 3/5 draw 3. And we didn't have conditioning then either. Conditioning really kicked Warrior into high gear and made it so that filling your hand was worth doing because you wanted a bunch of cards there before you gave them all +2/+2.
And I still regularly lose to Rogue because I choose to Watley when I should fight for board harder.
Yes. Rogue's just Zoo with better removal. That's all it really is.
And draw.
You mean with Soulfire that sometimes does 6 damage, even though it costs 2 mana?
Yeah, instead of discarding cards, we draw cards. It's better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to say on my wait and see here is Libram of Judgment, which at the time was not seeing much play. But once Penflinger went away, you needed a new strategy for winning with Libram Paladin. And so when we were having some Libram Paladins again, you had to run Libram of Judgment.
We're not going to talk about the rest of your wait and sees here, right? We're not going to do that?
Nope.
No.
I don't see any. I don't know what you're looking at, Hat.
Yeah.
I think all I see right now is the thanks and contact. That's the next thing I see on the docket.
So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website, coinconcede.com. You can find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Right into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number Theory, Tenor Wizard, Doge, TK, Roby One, Dr. Fish, Crash Cap, B Squad, David P, Snowpack, and Tarot, Lucky, Fade to Black, and Waloo. And big thanks to our Twitch subs, Baximus, 10 subs. Thank you so much, Baximus. Proby1, 5 subs. You're a crazy person. Doge TK, Helping Friendly Book, and N Sanosuke. Thank you all so much for subscribing during the live show here. We are very grateful to have you all here and to have you all listening during this little lull in Hearthstone activity. But we managed to figure out how to get some content for you all. And we're going to work more on getting some bonus content out on other game modes and mailbag stuff and whatever. And hopefully we have tons to talk about in the near future when they announce a bunch of stuff. Please, Blizzard, please give us some content. Even just an XR AMA. 1 XR AMA to feed my family. Edelweiss, Coin Concedes, let's go.
So my Coin Concede this week is to Slissa. I was having kind of a low moment earlier in the week, and she responded on Twitter and helped me out, and I'm very grateful for that. So Coin Concede to her.
Yes. Shout out to Slissa, she's great. Botticus?
I would like to coin concede to Buse, who I had the coaching with yesterday. We were able to reschedule it very quickly, which was very handy, and unfortunately had that unfortunate loss to Shaman, but had a pretty nice Priest Mirror win that took like half an hour, but figured out the strategy of playing more pirates. If you play more pirates, they draw more cards, and then they lose in fatigue.
The Priest Mirror, if you can like Scoundrel into Scoundrel or Scoundrel into Raise Dead or whatever, it gets pretty gross and pretty goofy. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we burned 5 of their cards, they burned 2 of ours, and that was the summation of the game. That was summation of a 30-minute game. We burned 5 of their cards, they burned 2 of ours, so we won.
You have to work so much harder to get into Lysiana now these days. Yeah. I'd like to coin concede to Dr. Bomb D, my opponent in the finals of the Classic Clash. Well played, Doc. He beat me in the Swiss. I got my revenge in the finals. Coin concede as well to Schwal to help run it, and I put together a list of all of the winners that I could find for the listener series. And we've done a lot of these. 5. We've done 15 seasons of the listener series. Pretty rad. So you know what? I'm going to read them right now because we got the time. Botticus, our first winner. The Ungoro, Conquest, Meta, Nicolaius and Witchwood last year is standing. Rabobson, Boomsday last year is standing. Markshire, Rastakhan Strike. I won the Rastakhan Specialist with Mech Priest or Mech Paladin. Thank you very much. Pasca won the Rise of Shadows Specialist Noah Lysiana. Boozosaurus won in Uldum Shielded Conquest. Disco and Donkey both won Uldum in the Tombs, Theseus and Donkey in Galakron's Awakening meta, Boozosaurus and Heartfield in the Ashes meta, Daggard and Rebobson in the Ashes Last Hero Standing meta, Isocles and Steekawish, Skullomance Conquest, Isocles and Donkey, the Darkmoon Fair Conquest, that's Donkey's 3-peat, by the way, Bort, Barrens, Wild winner, and me, the Classic winner. Really enjoyed running these. We're going to do another one in the near future here. Trying to decide if it's before or after next expansion, but we don't know how long that's going to be. Probably a Nozdormu. Maybe a little Nozdormu action. We'll see. You got to get that going.
Did you just read off this list so that you could finally brag that you have more wins than I do now?
I didn't. I read this off because it was in front of me, but now that you mention it, I don't just have one more win than you, Bodicus. I have double your wins. Because
technically both of those statements are true.
Yeah?
Even though you framed it as only one of them being true.
You're right. I have won both once more than you and double the amount. Thank you for pointing that out. So, that's going to be our show for the week. So keep calm, and be as patient as you want to be. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All right, recording stopped. Short and sweet this week, chat. Thank you so much for being here. We really like hanging out, and it makes the slower time in Hearthstone a little bit more enjoyable. We're gonna call it here. Go edit the show, get it out to you this weekend. Hopefully, some more bonus content coming to you in the very near future. And see y'all around. Bye, chat.